Geffen Records presents Skylarking. Greetings, this is George Gimarc, and this hour we'll be spending some time with XTC talking about their 8th album, Skylarking. This marks the band's first ever sessions recorded in America, and we'll be speaking with Andy Partridge, as well as the LP's producer, Todd Rundgren. On Skylarking, the band retains their lineup as a trio: Andy Partridge, Colin Moulding, and Dave Gregory. Now, since they haven't toured in over 5 years, they utilize a drummer only when recording, and percussion on Skylarking is handled very ably by Prairie Prince, ex-member of the Tubes. So, let's begin with Side 1, Track 1. It's Summer's Cauldron from XTC's latest album, Skylarking.
Drowning here in summer's cauldron.
Well, the two songs you heard just there, the first one was called Summer's Cauldron. Pretty summery experience, I think you'll find. And it actually went into a song called Grass, which was a song that Colin wrote, the bass player. And Todd, the producer, said, Todd Rundgren said that we should actually put these two songs together and sort of like re-Siamese twins them, you know, as opposed to cutting Siamese twins apart. We should actually put two songs together and kind of learn them as one song, sort of back to back. You know, there wasn't any editing involved. We actually played the two songs. They sort of ran into each other, so we joined them and made them one long song, Summer's Cauldron Grass. And all those rhythmic chirpings and things, they were just the technically minded here. What we did is get like a computer to set up a rhythm pattern. They're like, you know, dum dum da dum 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 dum, this sort of thing. And then we took samples of tweeting birds and buzzing insects and stuff, and used those as the main rhythm track of the song of Summer's Cauldron, and they spill over a little into Grass. So if you were sat home there wondering how we taught those crickets to chirrup in time, I'll save you a little brain juice. But 'twere great fun to do that. Track 3 is called The Meeting Place. Place Place, not the fish. It's nothing to do with greeting fish. Well, it could be. You'd be surprised what people read into our lyrics. So there, for the person who wants to look into the song, is actually it's all about meeting fish. Another of Colin's songs, this one, and this is a song of lust amongst the rust. It's a kind of, I mean, it's a thing about dens and personal, private places to go and frolic. It's like, you know, a personal place to meet somebody. It needn't be anywhere spectacular, just anywhere, under a certain bunch of leaves somewhere. I'll see you at such and such. You know, it might just be anything, like a tree stump or some barbed wire or a dingy cafe that only serves spam or whatever. But you have to listen closely to the lyrics if you can hear them amongst the steam and the pressing machines going in the background. The mechanical rhythm track as opposed to the natural rhythm track of the first song. This one is mechanical things like steam hammers and lathes and stuff like this, which we put in, cut and edited into rhythm. You see this clonk, clonk, clonk.
Meet you in the secret place.
Yes, that's really Supergirl. If there's anyone out there that works for DC Comics, it's not at all to do with Supergirl, so you mustn't sue us. It's to do with the soup. Yes, soup, that's what it's to do with. Supergirl, S-O-U-P-E-R, Supergirl. She is actually a wonderful being from another galaxy that has this mystic power over soup. I lie. I've got to think how we can get away without being sued. Any case, that's really Supergirl was. I occasionally do this. One of those tracks which I wrote, and I thought, oh yeah, this is really good. It'd make a great single. And then I hated it. It's got like I did it, and then I'd put it away for ages and ages, and thought, oh god, this is awful. And Todd picked the track out and said, I really like this. I think this ought to be a single. Well, consequently, it hasn't been Virgin in England. I don't think Geffen in the States have said, hey, this is make a really good single, but we actually did it. You know, he persuaded me to do it, and I said, oh, I really don't like this track and all that. And well, I'm getting used to it now. I'm actually getting quite to like it. So it's a case of I thought of it, and then this baby, you know, fell out of favour with me, and then we actually put it onto tape, and it's growing on me again. So that happens occasionally. That's a case of this, but it's all to do with soup.
I can't hold you now.
Yes, this is a track called Ballet for a Rainy Day. I mean, when you live in England, one of the things you talk about all the time is weather. I mean, you can go out and you can meet total stranger in the street, and the big thing is, what a lovely day, and it looks as though it might cloud up later. Always on the TV is weather report after weather report, and we're weather maniacs, weather crazies over here. You'll have right now, it looks as though, it looks pretty thundery out there. I mean, 5 minutes ago it was blazing hot sunshine, and you were covering your head up with an envelope to try and stop the sun burning your head. I mean, 5 more minutes time we could have hurricane or whatever, or maybe a little snow. You just can't get fed up with the weather in England because you get great choice. It's magazine-style weather, browsing, conscious weather. But I wrote 2 rain songs, and it was suggested that we tie these songs together, so that, again, they form another set of musical Siamese twins. The first track's called Ballet for a Rainy Day, and this is a song that's it's about like painting on a rainy day, and, like scrubbing water all over your picture and making the colours run, and people running out of the rain in the street, and fruit getting wetter on the stalls, in the fruit. Oh, you'll get the message.
Orange and lemon raincoats.
Well, that was 1,000 Umbrellas, which you might have noticed is just like acoustic guitar and string section. Yeah, now what did the others do on that track? Now I think Colin's doing just a little backing vocal on there. And Dave was prodded into doing more backing vocal on this album than ever before. We just bought a longer, more pointed stick, so we get in there and sing this. But yeah, they were kind of sort of absent on this one. What we did was we felt the song should stay rather lonely, and it should have this kind of cheesy baroque sort of feel. And there's a great string arrangement that Dave knocked up. He knocked it up over several months. I used to go down to his house for a cup of tea and say, I got a new song or whatever. And I took him this song, 1,000 Umbrellas, one day, and we said, yeah, I'd love to do this with strings. And he bought a sequencer, which, if you don't know what a sequencer is, it's like a keyboard thing where you can type in and it remembers the combinations of notes that you play on a keyboard. And with the use of this sequencer, we typed in this string arrangement and changed it subtly, like once a week over a couple of months, until we got to a certain point where it sounded really the right degree of floweriness and the right degree of grandiosement. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. The right amount of grandness is what I'm trying to say for the song. And then we took it and Dave sat down with a very sharp pencil and wrote out all of this stuff that we put in the sequencer into manuscript, literally a book of manuscript for the string section. And we got some string players, and they sat down, and after a couple of lookings at this score, they just sat and played it, and it was great. Great working with real instruments again. It's not synthesizers; it's real string players. God bless the violin player, the big fat violin player we had. She was lovely, but she kept getting up and knocking her microphone over and searching for food. But that's one of the delights with working with real strings. Yes, the last track on this side is called Season Cycle, and it's a bit naughty really, because I started writing this song. I was walking the dog in the place where I walk the dog, which is like it's now a public park, but it used to be somebody's private garden to a very nice mansion house, which I think was torn down by some American soldiers in the war in their lust for putting up pin-ups. The mansion was eroded by pinholes. But the actual gardens to this place are gorgeous, and I took the dog for a walk in there. I was walking him around one day, and I was ankle deep in fallen leaves, and I was walking around, and I had this rhythm going in my head: walk, 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 walk. And I just started to hum and sing a song, and I dashed home, really quickly, and started writing this idea out. And it was basically about who's in control of the never-ending cycle of seasons, going round and round and round, always in the same order, in the same way. And as I started to mess around with the arrangement at home on my little tape recorder, I really got into the mischievous thing of making it sound like the Beach Boys. I'd lay on one vocal, and I'd lay on a counterpoint vocal, and then a very high vocal in the background, very and then I had like extra tunes coming in, sung by whole masses of people in harmony, And then I started to write in words that, like Beach Boys words, like darling. I mean, what other band do you know that uses the word darling? And it got really mischievous because I started to actually write in things that the Beach Boys might have written in. And there's a little middle eight in there with an anvil in there, which is very Beach Boysy. Ba-boom, ding, ding, ba-boom. You know, this little anvil. And it got really naughty, you know. Well, the Dukes of Stratosphere were kind enough to lend us their guitars to do this album on, or else we wouldn't have been able to do it at all. So I thought I'd take a bit of Dukes of Stratosphere advice, and we'd do a Beach Boys track, so that's Season Cycle.
Season cycle moving round and round.
Stay tuned. We'll be back with more of XTC and their LP Skylarking right after this.
Glad you've flipped the disc over and not tried playing the rim. Right, yes, the voice that's breathing down your radiophonic tube type things right now is Andy Partridge of XTC. This fellow here has kidnapped me to talk about the new album that we have called Skylarking. I was very worried that this LP was going to not disappoint, but kind of throw off on a tangent fans of ours that liked the clangorous guitar sounds and these strange chords that shot in from nowhere and things of that nature. Kind of the musical jagged edges. And this LP really doesn't have a lot of musical jagged edges. The songs that were picked because they fell into a kind of a continuous category, like a sort of a summer category. I'm awaiting my honorary member of the Beach Boys shirt for this falling into a summer category here, but this was something that I had a long conversation with Todd over, was the fact that he found a lot of our records in the past, for him, and I know a lot of people like this, but he found them rather unnerving, you know, the kind of the clangorousness in some songs of the past, things like Train Running Low, or Rain of Blows, or Complicated Games, or Travels in Nihilon, things that, you know, the darker side of XTC. I think he found that a little too unnerving and wanted to make, in his quotes, an enjoyable experience that you could return back to. It could have been a very loud LP. It could have been, we had lots of songs, like, I don't know, 30 songs or something like that, and it could have been one of 3 LPs. It could have been a very boisterous, crashing guitar album, electric guitar album, or it could have been a summery, gentler experience, which it's turned out to be, or it could have been a mixture. I would have been for a mixture, but Todd suggested we should go for the all-summer thing here, so we're going for an all-summery thing. Yeah, Earn Enough for us, it's a basic kind of song. I mean, I wrote the thing, and I remember rushing down from the attic saying, I've got a song, it's great. I didn't think I could, it was like a constipation time, and I didn't think I could find another song there, and then I rushed down and I found one, dug real deep, and I just slammed down a demo real quick, kind of me and an electric guitar, just jang, 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 you know. And I thought, well, it's a bit of a crass demo, but I'll post it to Todd and see what he thinks. And then he phoned me up and said, well, we should do it just like this. And I said, well, it's a little bit crass, you know, that crashing guitar. He said, oh, I really like it. So here is a polished, crass version of Earn Enough for Us. Yes, the album's title is Skylarking. This was after much deliberation and arm wrestling and a little jousting and all that sort of stuff. But our albums go through literally hundreds of titles before we eventually rest on one. I'm sure everybody does this, but our albums have been things in the past like The Big Express, for example. For a while it was called Hard Blue Rayhead. And you know, the album titles grow and grow and turn around corners and come back again, and somebody says a word or a phrase. This one, actually, Skylarking, is a term used in England, mostly used by fathers to sons, as in, where have you been? You've been out skylarking. It means generally messing around or getting into trouble or just possibly doing something you shouldn't have been doing. I think in the States, a skylark is some fabulous form of motor vehicle. I've got completely off the track. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, our album titles. Skylarking is an expression meaning, you know, messing around. And as all the tracks on the album were, oddly enough, picked from demos by Todd Rundgren, before we even met the chap, he phoned over and said, look, I have the order of the album that we're going to do it in. and this was really bizarre because we'd never worked like that before. He'd actually heard the demos. We sent him about 3 albums worth of songs, and he picked out, about the songs that he wanted to work on that he liked, and he actually said, well, this is the order they're going to be in. And when we started on day 1, it was like, the intro of track 1. We worked through very, very methodically. But overall, the album has a kind of a very summery sort of feel, and the tracks have been picked so that they flow from day into night, or from life into death, or from growth into decay, or whatever. Big Day. This is Colin's song about the frightening side of marriage, and the it's forever side, the locked in side, and I don't mean the flavour, but this is this never changed too much from the demo. He did a great demo. His demo of this had like a whistling kettle on the end. I thought it was a whistling kettle for ages, and it's actually, he had a little plug-in battery amplifier that went wrong on him as he was doing the demo, and it kind of made noises like but then we never couldn't convert that to the finished thing. Listen out for the mariachi trumpets in the background, but this is Big Day.
It's your big day.
If you've been spinning that dial around and you're unfortunate I'll have to land on this station, you're listening to Andy Partridge of XTC, who's trying to explain his way out of a lot of trouble here, probably a hanging matter in a few states. We're talking about some tracks from the new XTC album, Skylarking, and it looks like we're going to talk about the track called Another Satellite, which I got a feeling is possibly my favourite track on the album. There's not too much I can say about this, except I wanted it to sound... I mean, you might get the sentiment from the lyrics, I shan't explain that, but I wanted it to sound like a kind of a remembrance of a futuristic 50s jazz that never was. Sort of the kind of trendy music they might have broadcast from Vostok 1 or some other Russian satellite going around, we better capture American audience, broadcast kinky crazy jazz, man. So it's an attempt at futuristic 50s jazz.
My heart is taken, it's not lost in space.
XTC album producer Todd Rundgren.
When we first started the XTC album, they sent me a lot of songs. They sent me probably at least 30, 35 songs between Colin and Andy. Maybe a month or two even before the band came to America to start the record, I developed a sort of an overall concept with a running order and everything for the whole record. And when we started the record, we set about to kind of fill in the concept. And with very few changes, that's more or less the way the record is now. One of the changes was that Andy came up with a song that I didn't necessarily feel fit into the concept, but Andy wanted to have on the record, and that song was called Another Satellite. And to get it onto the record, we had to remove a song. And the song that got removed was Dear God. Not by my choice, but by other powers decided that Dear God would be removed from the album. But alternatively, they used it as a B-side to a single, and the single appeared here as an import. And suddenly everybody started playing the B-side of the single, which was Dear God. And the upshot of that was that... I suppose Geffen, the record label, decided that Dear God should indeed appear on the record, and they placed it, I guess, in what was its original place in the running order, and removed a different song, which was Mermaid Smiled. But I'm happy with the change of events myself, and I'm also really happy that the record is getting some attention now, because we worked really long and hard on it and tried to do something that was really different and subtle. And the fact that people are picking up on it is satisfying indeed.
Dear God, hope you got the letter. Dear God.
This is a song called A Man Who Sailed Around His Soul. And I took the tape or sent the tape to Todd Rundgren, and he called me up, and I kind of half-heartedly didn't expect it to get on the album. I thought, well, maybe he won't like it, not all the lyrics are there, maybe it's too short, And it sounds like the kind of demo I did was like, Leonard Cohen on a bad day. It was pretty miserable, one man and his wretched acoustic guitar of a demo. And he called back and said, yeah, this is great. I want to do a whole brass arrangement on this, and I want to do it something like... like Mel Torme or Buddy Greco or somebody like that, kind of late 50s Vegas-y spy film type brass arrangement. And I initially thought, God, the bloke's flipped his Beatle wig 10 sizes too big. And then we got over there and we started working on it, and we had these brass players come in and flute players and stuff, and it really took on this whole different character, and quite shocking, quite surprised me what the song became. And I really liked it. I went from doubting the song to really liking it. How can I describe it? It's ended up as the soundtrack of a beatnik existentialist spy film from the early 60s that never was. The man with the golden... The man with the golden...
The man who sailed around his soul from east to west, from pole to...
The man with the golden... Oh, goodness me, yes, the man... Oh, the man with the golden retriever. No, the spy who came in from out in the drizzle. No, I don't know. Well, you get the idea. Oh, well, here's a real fun track. Well, this is fun time now, because there's a track here called Dying. This is one of Collins' tunes. I'm going to put my serious head on here. Now, this is one of Collins' tunes. Very short little tune. I think it's about 1 minute 50 or something like that. And it's just about dying. I think it's about a relative of his who died, and I just think he was expressing, just like thoughts about this relative that had dropped down dead somewhere. Quite unexpectedly, When he first brought it up, I felt a little bit embarrassed by the lyrics, and then I just had a relative die, and I know exactly what he's talking about. So, first of all, I thought, oh no, maybe you shouldn't say those things, or maybe they just left unsaid, and then he put it in a song, and then, as I said, well, my grandfather died, and I thought, oh, good grief, and I didn't think it cut me up, and it did terrible, and I started to think about this song Dying. So, it's a serious time here. I put my seriousing head on, but this is spot on about dying.
It frightens me.
The LP seems to reach like now that this dying is finished there, it seems to reach like the lowest, blackest point, and I suppose it's just before the dawn, because the next track, Sacrificial Bonfire, was chosen to go in this place because Todd Rundgren thought that the character of the LP should now come back up. It should now offer hope, after the darkest point in the record. So this is like the darkest point before the dawn, or the point before new life or whatever. Sacrificial Bonfire, again, one of the bass player Colin, our shy old Collins tunes, and he did quite an interesting demo of this, just him tapping along on various bits and pieces, a guitar and drum box, and did change quite radically from the demo, because we put a full orchestra, a real orchestra on this, so it has quite a large, goes from primitive to very large and very sophisticated, and then down to primitive again. But I hope you enjoy it. What more can I say?
Fire, they cried, so evil.
You've been listening to an exclusive hour of conversation with Andy Partridge of XTC, and music from the band's current Geffen LP, Skylarking. This special was produced by George Gimarc, with a big thanks to John Michaels of LeBlanc Productions, executive producer Larry Butler. George Gimarc here, and on behalf of Geffen Records, thanks for listening.